Next question, command, whatever you want to call it. Write a 10-page white paper comparing the hypothetical methods for resolving the cons of a money-driven society and the hypothetical methods for resolving the cons of a currency-free society. Make an educated guess as to which method, given the individual circumstances, would be easier to implement. Make an educated guess as to which method, given the individual circumstances, would be less energy intensive and more efficient to sustain in perpetuity. Again, I'm not trying to feed it any sort of bias or like push it in any one direction. Okay, I find this very fascinating. So, let's keep going. Introduction from ChatGPT. A money-driven society and a currency-free society each have their own unique set of challenges that must be addressed for them to be successful. In this white paper, we will compare the hypothetical methods for resolving the cons of a money-driven society and a currency-free society. We will also make an educated guess as to which method would be easier to implement and which method would be less energy intensive and more efficient to sustain in perpetuity. Nice plagiarism there. Kind of, I guess. I don't know. Resolving the cons of a money-driven society. 1. Inequality. To resolve the issue of inequality in a money-driven society, there are several hypothetical methods that could be employed. One method could be to create a progressive tax system, where those with higher incomes are taxed at a higher rate. This would help to redistribute wealth and reduce the concentration of power in the hands of a few. Another method would be to increase access to education and job training programs, which could help to level the playing field and provide more opportunities for individuals to succeed regardless of their economic background. Exploitation. To address the issue of exploitation, by the way, interesting analysis on that first one. So the problem with taxing, side note, right? The problem with taxing the wealthy is that they will in turn pass that tax on to their consumers, to their clientele, okay, to their subscribers, whatever. So yeah. Higher tax rates for the wealthy just turns into higher prices for everybody else. That's a fact. That's just how things are. So now I'm not sure how anyway, the next argument, right, is to increase access to educational facilities and job training programs. Yes, but it depends on how you do that. So, anyway, let's move on. This is actually a topic that I am planning on talking about in a future video. I've had a crazy month. There's been a death. There's been a terminal illness popped up out of nowhere. Both pets, right? My best little buddy died a couple of weeks ago. My little sweetie here has heart disease. So I haven't been doing any videos. This is the first series of videos I've been doing, and I feel bad even doing this because I should be working on the fundraising mechanisms for our little sweetie, because she does need heart surgery. So I haven't gotten to several of the videos I've been wanting to do. You know, before we move on, if you're interested, I'm going to leave a couple links in the description. Our little sweetie Lavender is on her way to heart failure. She's been taking medication, but we are going to be trying to raise money to be able to afford the heart surgery. Insurance won't take her because it's a pre-existing condition, but all the same, let's move on here. Money, man, fucking money. Okay, anyway, inequality, exploitation. To address the issue of exploitation in a money-driven society, hypothetical methods could include the creation of stricter regulations and oversight of businesses. This could involve requiring companies to prioritize sustainability and social responsibility in their operations, as well as providing protections for workers and communities. Another method could be to create incentives for businesses that prioritize sustainability and social responsibility, such as tax breaks or public recognition. Requiring companies to prioritize sustainability and social responsibility is tough. As I've said many times before, anytime you try to implement a law, trying to regulate things, there is always the incentive to cheat. If cheating is typically less costly than going the road they're pushing you, and typically if it is some sort of regulation, it is less costly to cheat. Most of the time. Large majority of the time. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any regulations to try to alter that behavior. So that's a tricky one. Let's see. Create incentives for businesses to prioritize sustainability and social responsibility. Tax breaks and public recognition. Okay, that's a fairly legitimate means of deviating incentives, of hijacking the traditional flow of financially driven incentives in order to kind of restructure the society's motivational foci. So interesting. All right, consumerism. To reduce consumerism in a money-driven society, hypothetical methods could include implementing a carbon tax, or other forms of pricing mechanisms that reflect the true cost of goods and services. Tricky. Let's stop here really quick. Reflecting the true cost of goods and services. So I've done a lot of research on this, and I've got a few videos on this, but this comes down to what value actually is. It's not an easy question to answer. So trying to determine what the true cost of some good and or service is, we don't even know how to do that, right? Our best guess at what value is today is a combination of supply and demand, right? And as Adam Smith tried to really push, from his whole paradigm, is that the true cost of items and services and goods, right, will kind of bubble up from the entire system of incentives and pushes and pulls and supply and demand, right? And you eventually end up with the true cost of some good. I disagree, because, and I'm just going to hit this really quick before we move on. We pump oil out of the ground. The amount of energy we gain from that substance is exponentially larger than the amount of energy put in to acquiring it. Which means that there is something going on, right? There's some sort of miscalculation or imbalance. So, true cost, yeah, that's not something I can jibe with. There's much more complexity to that problem. So, yeah, nope. Anyway, moving on. This would encourage consumers to make more sustainable choices and reduce waste. Another method could be to promote education and awareness about the impacts of consumerism on the environment and society. I mean, obviously, right? Even now, you want to ensure that the rising generation understands what's going on here. So, okay, let's move on. Resolving the cons of a currency-free society. Allocating resources. 1. To address the issue of resource allocation in a currency-free society, hypothetical methods could include the use of artificial intelligence and data analytics to create more efficient systems for resource allocation and distribution. This could involve analyzing data on people's needs and preferences to allocate resources more effectively and reduce waste. Another method could be to create decentralized systems of resource allocation and distribution. Not bad. Where individuals and communities have more control over the allocation of resources. I fully agree with this 100,000%, because that is like almost verbatim from one of my white papers. All the same. Correct on all fronts. Okay. Number 2, encouraging innovation. To encourage innovation in a currency-free society, hypothetical methods could include creating alternative incentives for innovation beyond financial gain. Of course, you would have to, correct? Okay. This could involve providing recognition and status for individuals and businesses that develop products and technologies that have a positive impact on society or the environment. Another method could be to create more opportunities for collaboration and knowledge sharing between individuals and organizations. Okay, quick comment on this. Yes, missing a few points though here, okay? So, of course, in a currency-free society, you don't have the financial incentive, so obviously, right? It needs to include creating alternative incentives for innovation beyond financial gain. This could involve providing recognition and status for individuals and businesses that develop products and technologies that have a positive impact on society or the environment. So, yes, in a way. Let me explain. So there's several, theories, right, that you could classify under motivational psychology. One of the most popular right now is the self-determination theory of intrinsic motivation. Now, the problem with how ChatGPT expressed this is that, that it's trying to portray the idea that there is an incentive in there for creating something that is has a positive impact on society and or the environment. This is true, but the true incentives, the true motivations come from the three kind of fundamental, I guess, keys or concepts of the intrinsic motivation, right? The self-determination theory of intrinsic motivation, which are CAR, right? Competency, autonomy, and relatedness. Competency is how well you know the subject or, right, the thing that you're working on, how well you understand it. You are competent in your art, okay? Competency, right? You need to understand what you're doing, right? Autonomy, having a fair measure of control over what you are doing, right? Not being micromanaged, not having somebody else breathing down your throat telling you what to do next, right? Competency, autonomy, relatedness. Relatedness is having a high functioning relationship with those whom you work with, meaning being good buds with your coworkers. That's it, really, right? CAR, competency, autonomy, relatedness. You learn how to maximize those three in a positive direction, and that is like motivation. That's where motivation comes from. That is the I guess, what's the word I'm trying to say? That's like the internal big bang of motivation, right? That's where motivation comes from. So, not so much having a positive impact on society or on the environment, but more just having a good working, knowledge of what you're doing, having control over what you're doing, and working well with those that you're working with. That's really all you need. As long as you take care of that person's basic needs, right? You will have motivation up through the wazoo and all the other wazoos, right? The wazoo's wazoo. You'll have wazoos upon wazoos upon wazoos of motivation. So, it's not so much like trying to give somebody recognition as it is putting somebody in a situation where their motivation, internal motivation, intrinsic motivation will flourish, blossom, and explode. That's what you want. Recognition is good, but if the problem here is that when somebody begins to quote unquote self-actualize or transcend according to what's his name? Scott Barry Kaufman, right? Researcher, right? Psychology researcher. It's a how do I say this? Before somebody has all of their needs met, and before somebody is, the social relationships that they need to progress to the next level, before somebody has all of the education necessary, before somebody is established and financially secure, right? Or after after all of that, once somebody is, settled, they're good, they're educated, they understand what they're doing, they like what they're doing, they work well with the people that work with them on what they are doing. Okay. Up until that point, before was the right term. Okay, up until that point, before all of that happened, most of their motives were selfish. They were selfishly, not a bad thing, right? They were selfishly, driving for a better education. They were selfishly working towards finding a partner. They were selfishly engaged in finding a career that pays well. All right. But when somebody is on top of their own hill, right? Once somebody is there, settled, they're good, they love what they're doing, they work well with those they work with, they have a good social structure around them that's not toxic, then that selfishness just kind of pops inside out, and they become altruistic, they become egalitarian, they become more concerned about the social structure, about how others around them are doing, about Joe over there in sales, and Mike over there in development, and James over there in research, right? Once somebody has hit that level, and once somebody is good, they begin to look outwards. They go from being internal and selfish and concerned about like their own achievements and how they're going to get to the top. They go from that, they flip inside out and become concerned about their social network, about the society they live in, about social issues. That is transcendence, right? That is self-actualization, actually. And it's so trying to recognize somebody and give them status for developing products and technologies that have a positive impact on society and the environment right off the bat isn't going to work. Not until you have provided the pathway for them to become self-actualizing, to become self-transcendent, such that at that point, then those become proper motivations. How long did it take for me to explain that? Doesn't matter. All right, let's move on. Another method could be to create more opportunities for collaboration and knowledge sharing between individuals and organization. Yes, I fully agree with that. Even without any sort of psychology and motivational rigmarole, this, right, having open journals, having cooperatives that interact and share knowledge with each other. If you're a researcher and there's another group of researchers over there and you're kind of in the same field, and you give them something and they give you something, and it's something new that would help your research move along and would help your understanding move along and move to the next level, yeah, that's motivational. Like, yes, absolutely. 100%. New information that has been verified and vetted by another group that is applicable to what you are working on, yeah, that is motivation for sure. So I agree with that. All right. Number 3, managing human motivation. To address the issue of motivation in a currency-free society, hypothetical methods could include the use of motivational psychology to create a sense of purpose and social connectedness. This could involve promoting a sense of community and shared values, as well as providing opportunities for personal growth and development. Another method could be to create systems of recognition and reward for individuals who contribute to their communities and society as a whole. Again, recognition probably isn't, when you're moving in this direction, right? Recognition is nice, nothing wrong with that, right? But that's not going to be a prime motivational factor. It's just not. When you're kind of structuring everything to get everybody that you know or everybody in your society to self-actualize and become their best selves and have that internal intrinsic motivation fired up. Recognition is nice. Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate everybody. Blah, 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 right? But their real motivation it doesn't come from reward. It doesn't come from winning a fucking prize. It doesn't come from anything like that. It comes from wanting to do what they're doing and having a sense of wanting to help their society once they're transcendent, right? Promoting a sense of community and shared values. Definitely motivational right there. Managing. Okay. Yeah. Except for this last one, the recognition and reward thing. If you're truly moving in this direction and getting everybody at their top game and I guess being kind of the catalyst for everybody's self-transcendence, self-actualization, rewards, recognition, not as important as ChatGPT is making it out to be here. Comparing the methods. In comparing the methods for resolving the cons of a money-driven society and a currency-free society, there are several factors to consider. Ease of implementation. It is likely that the methods for resolving the cons of a money-driven society, such as creating a progressive tax system or implementing regulations on businesses, would be easier to implement than the methods for resolving the cons of a currency-free society, such as using artificial intelligence for resource allocation or creating alternative incentives for innovation. This is because the former methods are already well established and have existing structures and systems in place, while the latter methods would require more innovative and experimental approaches. 100% correct. Totally correct. Definitely. Absolutely, it would be easier if you did it right, to try to restructure the money-driven capitalist sort of society in a way that is equitable and fair and get rid of all of its cons, right? But there are problems with trying to do that. Anyway, hypothetically, it would be easier to do that than to have to completely move everything over to a currency-free society and then solve all of the cons for a currency-free society. But let's go on. Energy intensity and efficiency. In terms of energy intensity and efficiency, it is difficult to make a clear comparison, and then it just stopped. So I said, hey, whoops, you left off at energy intensity and efficiency. So it continues, energy intensity and efficiency. In terms of energy intensity and efficiency, it is difficult to make a clear comparison between the methods for resolving the cons of a money-driven society and a currency-free society. The use of artificial intelligence and data analytics in a currency-free society could potentially lead to more efficient systems for resource allocation and distribution, which could help to reduce waste and minimize energy usage. However, the creation of decentralized systems for resource allocation and distribution could require more energy-intensive approaches such as local production and distribution of goods. Similarly, the methods for resolving the cons of a money-driven society, such as creating a progressive tax system or implementing regulations on businesses, could potentially reduce energy usage by encouraging more sustainable practices. However, these methods could also lead to unintended consequences such as increased bureaucracy and administrative costs, which could in turn lead to increased energy usage. Ultimately, the energy intensity and efficiency of these methods could depend on their specific implementation and the individual circumstances of the society in question. 100% agree. I mean, this is what I've been working on for a long time, right? The transitioning to a currency-free society, it's energy intensive. It is. You have to change a lot of things, right? But at the same time, once you get it going, the dynamics of a currency-free society are much less energy intensive and are much more equitable and work more smoothly, right? Once you initiate it, it's this smooth ride. So, totally agree with that. I don't know why it came to that conclusion, but totally agree with that because, yes, 100%. That's like a large part of what I have been working on. Yeah. How crazy, right? How crazy. Okay, anyway, let's move on to the conclusion. In conclusion, the methods for resolving the cons of a money-driven society and a currency-free society each have their own strengths and weaknesses. While the methods for resolving the cons of a money-driven society may be easier to implement given existing structures and systems, the methods for resolving the cons of a currency-free society may offer more innovative and experimental approaches. Similarly, while the methods for resolving the cons of a currency-free society may offer more potential for energy efficiency, the specific implementation of these methods would depend on the individual circumstances of the society in question. Ultimately, the choice between a money-driven society and a currency-free society depends on a complex interplay of economic, social, and environmental factors and requires careful consideration of the potential benefits and challenges of each approach. Bravo. Wow. 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 Okay. Well, that was fascinating. In the next video, we're going to go over this last question, which I think you will find very interesting. If AGI was achieved and machines eventually became the dominant species on planet Earth, write a 10-page prospective white paper concerning what sort of methods for the AGI intelligences might agree on, or, whoops, typo on my part, what sort of methods the AGI intelligences, what sort of methods the AGI intelligences might agree on for resource allocation and distribution and why they might choose that method. All right. See you in the next video.